Logic College Park just came out last week, Thursday, Friday, somewhere around there. Um, you know, he's kind of become known as hip hop's punching bag, meme worthy artist. And while sometimes it is deserved, I think for the majority of the time it's definitely not deserved, and he's kind of fallen somehow into like this internet hate wheel that certain artists kind of find themselves in. Russ being another example of that for reasons that are often beyond their control. While at times he can do things that seem a bit corny and industry esque, I think he is one of the better young artists out there. Obviously, his popularity is massive despite all the hate that he gets. He's put up huge numbers. He's gotten some really big songs, but he is not your kind of traditional hip hop star. And I think that's another large reason as to why people kind of shit on him and discount his success and his, impact in the culture. While, he's not spoken about in the same breath and air as like a J. Cole, Drake, or Kendrick, or other artists of that kind of generation. I do think he's lyrically, bar wise, rhyme style. He's in competition. He's definitely in competition. He's a true rapper. Like, he's not a meme rapper. He's not a SoundCloud rapper. He's a true rapper. He appreciates the genre. He appreciates tradition. He really brings it on a lot of his songs lyrically and stylistically. He might not be everybody's cup of tea, but it's undeniable that he's pretty much a universal type of artist. He can go all types of different routes with his music and his songs. And while not all of them live up to, his lofty goals and ambitions, he does try new things, and he does try to kind of reach for like these massive, swings. And while some work and some don't, that is something I do appreciate in an artist. And while he did retire, I want to say back in 2020, it was very short-lived, and he's been back since then. This might be like his third project since then. He's definitely been on a tear musically, and he seems to be kind of find his groove once again in kind of this new direction. I believe this is his first album not on a major label, so we'll see kind of how that affects things musically. But overall, while I'm not necessarily checking for the next Logic project when it does come out, I do typically want to hear it and see where he's at. I think, while he does get disrespected a lot more so than he definitely deserves, he does get a lot of respect from other artists and OGs in the game because they always pop up on his records. And he does put out good music. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. And he does put out good music. While he may not be for everybody, it's hard to deny that he does put out enjoyable music. So College Park, I believe, is kind of a throwback to his earlier days in his career where he was trying to break through. It kind of sounds like he's trying to get back to that, kind of those roots of that, get back to that feel, get back probably maybe a little bit to that hunger and desire. And I haven't heard, well, we did hear one song, Lightsabers. I mean, we didn't hear the whole thing, but we did check out the video for it. And just from that one listen, I mean, it was enjoyable. It was the tried and true kind of Logic sound and style, but it was still enjoyable. So I'm very curious and interested to see kind of where he goes with this one. I haven't heard like his last few projects he's put out, but there was one of his projects, I don't necessarily remember the name. I think it was the one right before he retired that I was definitely a pretty big fan of and still kind of return to this day. So I want to see if he can, where he's come, growth wise, music wise, and kind of see what space his mental is in, because that's something he has always struggled with and has talked about extensively in his music and in interviews. So let's check it out. Track number 1, Cruisin to the Universe featuring RZA. Okay. Interesting kind of intro. And I think unfortunately he does some of those things that I like the least that he does. That's specifically with kind of the vocal effects he puts on, the change of voice. I think there's very few artists and rappers in general that do a good kind of change of voice in their songs, and he's not one of them. So that's definitely one of my least favorite parts of what he does. I think that he tries to do it. When he does it, it feels a bit forced and kind of a reach, and I wish he would have just gave us something more straightforward. And RZA is definitely not has never been accused of being the most lyrical or, you know, vocally inclined or gifted. But here, he was my favorite part of this entire track, which isn't necessarily a great sign. I think the production was solid, but overall, I think he could have done something much different. Could have came much harder when you're opening a song with RZA. Now we checked out Lightsabers a little bit before with the video. It was obviously a much shorter version, so I don't know if I want to check that out again. I think we'll skip that for now. Let's go to Clone Wars 3, which could be a reference to Star Wars Clone Wars 3. Star Wars Episode 3. No, it's not. Maybe episode 2, Attack of the Clones, which I was going to say episode 3, if it was a reference to that, is a dope reference because that's one of my favorite Star Wars movies of all time. Yeah, I said it. One of my favorite ones. Attack of the Clones, not so much, but let's go to Clone Wars 3. Clone Wars 3. This is the logic I like. This is the logic I like, where he kind of pays homage to the 90s, but brings his own kind of more unique modern day flair and, you know, touches to. This definitely feels kind of like a throwback to like 90s De La Soul or something like that, like, which is, I think, a perfect lane for him. And I think this is when he's at his best, and this is the logic I like. Now, I will say some of those bars right there are pretty basic, elementary, and played out. He does have moments of that, and that does creep into a lot of his songs and raps at time. And that was one of those moments. Okay. Solid. Like I said, that is the logic I like the most. I think the production was phenomenal. It's definitely kind of that throwback 90s feel, a la De La Soul, a la, you know, other groups like that. But lyrically, I mean, his flow's great. I think his flow's great. And I just think sometimes lyrically, some of the bars he puts out are just, they just don't hit like he thinks they do. Like he thinks they do. But let's go to the next track. Playwright featuring Andy Ho. Andy Ho, which is kind of an interesting addition here. He's of Manchester Orchestra fame, indie rock band, very dope band. Interesting that he's guest featuring here, but he always does those kind of left field features and you know, attempts at something new. Like I said, he takes big swings and they don't always hit, but sometimes they do. And Andy Ho on a Logic album is something I didn't think I'd be hearing, but here we go. Got a lot of skits on this one. Got a lot of skits. That was solid. Cool little number. Not what I expected from that feature, but it was solid. Again, kind of touching that kind of old school golden era hip hop sound. Let's go to Self Medication featuring Seth MacFarlane, Redman, Static Selector. An eclectic group of features. Redman, one of the most underrated rappers and illustrious MCs of all time. Super underrated. Super, super underrated. But if you know, you know. Hold up, is that Seth MacFarlane? I know he does a lot of singing, a lot of musical numbers, and he loves that kind of old school sensibility when it comes to like that musical type of sound. That sounds like Seth MacFarlane. That's Seth MacFarlane. That's kind of dope. Like I said, man, Logic definitely takes some big swings and does things that you really wouldn't expect in his own kind of way. And putting Seth MacFarlane, Redman, and Static Selector together on a song is something totally unexpected, but it worked and it was pretty goddamn fire. And having Seth MacFarlane not like do a skit or, you know, something vocally like some type of ad libs, which I thought he might have done here, to have him sing, very left field, but worked. Let's go to Shimmy, featuring Joey Badass. I feel like whenever him and Joy link up, they typically produce something fire, and this is another one. It's definitely his most kind of radio club friendly one we've heard so far. Most kind of modern era sounding song. It was dope. Let's go to Paradise 2 featuring Norah Jones. Another unexpected feature, but let's check it out. Hold up, man. That bass line, super funky. Right off the back, that bass line is super funky. Norah was an absolutely unexpected addition and guest feature here, but she's perfect right here. She's perfect on this one. Crazy. One of my favorite songs we've heard so far from College Park, featuring Norah Jones, Paradise 2. Dope. Let's go to let's go back up a little bit. Let's go to Redpill VII. That definite 90s hip hop sound right there. Super 90s, kind of West Coast 90s, like Far Side, something like that. Like this is dope. This is dope. This is hip hop. This is just pure hip hop. He always has some really just cringe bars that he thinks he's like really popping off, and it's just like, oh, that ain't it. Luckily I got a therapist from the Outback, straight from the Outback. She's always there for me when I'm feeling down under. Come on, bruh. Come on. That bar was... But the track is fire. But he always kind of ruins it sometimes with just some super mid corny bars, even though he can rap. He just, sometimes it's just like, do better. Hey man, aside from some occasional cringe bars, he can spit, man. His flow's crazy. Like he can definitely spit. I don't think lyrically he's the most impactful, but he can spit. And production wise, this was a very, very solid track, very enjoyable. And like I said, some cringe bars here and there, but good song. Good song. All right, let's go back down to the coordinate song. I'm not gonna read all these out, but track number 15. Let's go. I mean, solid number. C. Dot Castro definitely the highlight for me. They were all definitely talking about, their come up in the game and back to the early days of rapping when they were trying to break through. Solid, decent, nothing mind blowing. But let's go to the next track featuring Bun B and Little Kiki AO, which is again a very unexpected feature. I would never expect to see these two on a Logic track, but here they are. So let's check it out. All right, and we're back. We're gonna do the last two tracks. AO featuring Bun B, Lil Kiki, of kind of Texas fame and Texas rap, especially back in the early 2000s when it seemed like Houston and kind of that sound coming out of South Texas was running things. And to see them on a Logic track is kind of crazy, but let's check it out. AO. I mean, right off the back, that beat is jamming. Super vibey, super wavy. Right off the back, that beat is tough. That was a dope number. Super unexpected. Not kind of what I expected to hear from a song featuring Bun B and Lil Kiki, but it was cool. Solid. Wish I got kind of more of their flavor into it, but it was solid nonetheless. Let's go to last track, Lightyear, closing track. Last song we're gonna do tonight. Logic, Lightyear, College Park. Let's go. That's definitely a callback to Kendrick Lamar, Section 80. I forget which song that was, but fire song, fire track, nonetheless. Was that rigor mortis? Might have been rigor mortis. Could be wrong, but let me know. I think this might be just kind of monologuing from now. Let's check it out. Yeah, it is. All right. Well, solid song, solid track. Dope little callback to Kendrick Lamar from Section 80. I want to say rigor mortis, could be wrong, but let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, that's it for Logic, College Park. Solid project, super low key and kind of mellow compared to a lot of other stuff that we've gotten from him. Definitely a lot of callbacks to kind of classic golden era 90s hip hop, which is always dope, but also, could have mixed in a little bit more modern, more mainstream kind of sounding things, but he clearly was trying to steer away from that as much as he could. It felt like he's kind of trying to go back to his roots and kind of what made him fall in love with hip hop in the first place, which is dope. He had a lot of left field, unexpected guest features, Seth MacFarlane, especially, that all, for the most part, worked out extremely well. He takes big swings. He took a big swing with some of those, and they panned out for the most part. Lyrically, solid. Flow is great as always. I think he still kind of has that tendency of throwing in some very kind of corny, cringeworthy type of bars and lines here and there that kind of like, I was feeling this. I was feeling what you were saying. And then you kind of hit us with something that was just like, so kind of cliche and just corny. But that's just who he is as a rapper. He has a mix. He has a mix of great and a mix of just kind of And I think for the most part, he is more great here than but he still definitely falls into that trap. Now, content wise, I think that he is still kind of stuck. He's still talking and rapping about the same thing that he's been talking and rapping about for the last like decade, what it seems like a decade. A lot of talk about the industry, a lot of talking about, fighting against the industry, kind of fighting to carve his own lane in the struggle of, kind of gaining respect and recognition from his peers and, just the general hip hop community. And I get it, man. I get it. Like you want that respect. It's a big part of hip hop, and getting that recognition as being one of the best lyricists, one of the best artists out there. But it's also like, bro, what are you complaining about? Like, what else do you need? You're winning. Like, you're winning. You have a true, genuine fan base that supports you no matter what you do and what you put out. And they love you, bro. Like, they absolutely love you. It's something that a lot of these artists, especially newer, younger artists that have come up that maybe have this huge wave and huge kind of, just this huge wave behind them when they first kind of break out, and seeming like respect and recognition from everybody in the industry at the moment, but none of them have ever really been able to create and craft a fan base quite like you, bro. Like, you have something unique in hip hop. You have a true core fan base, and that's something extremely hard to do, and it's something that I think that you should be incredibly proud about. And you can talk about those struggles all the time. That's just a part of hip hop. That's part of the culture. But it's also like, at some point, I feel like you have to get a bit more new content. Like, there's a lot of other things that are going on, a lot of things that have gone on in your life personally, and I'm sure you have touched on those in your past couple albums, but it seems like this is a trend that you always kind of come back to, kind of like that victimhood, like, oh, y'all are doing this to me, oh, y'all are trying to keep me down, oh, y'all not trying to let me be great. But bro, you are great, you're winning. Like, at some point you just gotta realize that, recognize it, and keep it moving. And I would love to see him kind of step away from that more victimhood type of content and lyricism and kind of really expand and grow. But it is what it is. It's kind of who he is at this point. It's kind of just ingrained into his songwriting and his style. I just feel like he can just do so much more. It's a solid album. I don't think it's going to convert any non-Logic fans or believers into being Logic fans or believers, but he is giving those kind of hip hop peers and those hip hop heads exactly what they want, kind of that backpack 90s era type of sound. And he does it a lot better than most artists out there that tried to go this route. And it's just solid. If you like Logic, you'll like this project for the most part. If you didn't like Logic, this won't change your mind at all. But for those of you that have heard this Logic project, what are some of your favorite tracks here? What are some of the favorite tracks that we got to listen to here? Or what songs that we didn't get to listen to? Which ones do you think that we should, or that I should go back and check out? What do you think about the album as a whole? What do you think about Logic as a whole? Where do you think he is in his career? Where would you like to see him go in the future? Do you want to see him continue kind of down this road? Do you want to see him go back to like some of his more mainstream hits and, upbeat type of songs and sounds? Let us know in the comments down below, wherever you're watching or listening to this. But that's it for this week's Now Spinning live stream. We'll be back next week with more music. As always, thank you guys for joining and watching us.